In the heart of the Alaskan wilderness, a dense, snow-laden forest stood silent and foreboding. The towering pines, heavy with snow, seemed to whisper secrets of the ages. Amidst this serene yet treacherous landscape, a lone wolf named Koda roamed. Once the proud leader of his pack, Koda now found himself trapped in a cruel twist of fate. A poacher's snare had ensnared his hind leg, leaving him wounded and alone. The cold bit into his flesh, and hunger gnawed at his insides. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Koda's hope dwindled. He howled into the night, a mournful cry that echoed through the trees, but there was no answer. The poacher, a grizzled man named Harlan, had set the trap with precision. He cared little for the animals he ensnared, seeing them only as a means to an end. His cabin, a ramshackle structure nestled deep in the woods, was filled with the trophies of his hunts. But Harlan was not just a hunter, he was a man haunted by his past. Memories of a life gone wrong plagued him, and he found solace only in the solitude of the forest. As he checked his traps, he stumbled upon Koda. The wolf's eyes met his, and in that moment, Harlan felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years' compassion. Koda, sensing the man's presence, bared his teeth in a desperate attempt to defend himself. But Harlan, instead of finishing the job, hesitated. He knelt beside the wolf, examining the trap. The wolf's leg was badly injured, and Harlan knew that if he didn't act quickly, the wolf would die. He reached into his pack and pulled out a set of tools. As he worked to free Koda, the wolf watched him with wary eyes. Harlan spoke softly, his voice a low murmur. "I ain't gonna hurt you, fella. Just hold still." With a final tug, the trap sprang open, and Koda was free. The wolf scrambled away, limping on his injured leg. Harlan watched him go, a strange sense of relief washing over him. He hadn't realized how much he needed to do something good, to make amends for the wrongs he'd committed. As Koda disappeared into the trees, Harlan felt a connection to the wild creature, a bond forged in that moment of shared vulnerability. Koda limped through the forest, his injured leg throbbing with pain. He was weak from hunger and loss of blood, but he pressed on. He knew he needed to find food and shelter, or he wouldn't survive. As he wandered, he came across a small clearing where a stream flowed. The water was icy cold, but it was a source of life. Koda drank deeply, then lay down to rest. He knew he had a long road to recovery ahead of him, but for the first time in days, he felt a glimmer of hope. Back at his cabin, Harlan couldn't shake the image of the wolf from his mind. He had always been a hunter, but now he questioned his purpose. The wolf had stirred something within him, a long-buried sense of empathy. He found himself wondering if there was more to life than just surviving. As he sat by the fire, he made a decision. He would find the wolf again and help him recover. It was a crazy idea, but it was the only thing that made sense to him anymore. Days passed, and Harlan searched the forest tirelessly. He followed the wolf's tracks, hoping to find him. Finally, he came across Koda, resting by the stream. The wolf was still weak, but his eyes were alert. Harlan approached slowly, speaking softly to reassure the animal. Koda watched him warily, but he didn't run. Harlan offered him food, and the wolf accepted it cautiously. It was the beginning of a tentative friendship. Over the next few weeks, Harlan visited Koda regularly. He brought food and medicine, and he tended to the wolf's injured leg. Slowly but surely, Koda grew stronger. The two formed a bond, one that transcended the boundaries between man and beast. Harlan found himself looking forward to his visits, and Koda seemed to anticipate his arrival. It was a healing process for both of them, a chance to find redemption and companionship. One day, as Harlan approached the clearing, he noticed that Koda was not alone. A small group of wolves had gathered, and they watched him with suspicion. Koda stood protectively beside Harlan, his body tense. Harlan knew that this was a test of trust. He spoke softly to Koda, and the wolf seemed to understand. He relaxed, and the other wolves followed suit. It was a moment of acceptance, a sign that Koda had vouched for Harlan. As Koda's strength returned, so did his instincts. He began to roam further from the clearing, sometimes disappearing for days at a time. Harlan worried about him, but he knew that Koda needed to be free. The wolf was a creature of the wild, and he couldn't be caged. Harlan understood that their time together was limited, but he cherished every moment they had. One evening, as Harlan sat by the fire, Koda appeared at the edge of the clearing. The wolf's eyes met his, and in that moment Harlan understood that Koda had made a decision. The wolf was strong now, his leg fully healed, and the call of the wild was stronger than ever. Harlan felt a pang of sadness, but he also felt a sense of pride. Koda had come back to say goodbye. Harlan rose to his feet and approached the wolf slowly, not wanting to startle him. He knelt down and looked into Koda's eyes, speaking softly. "I know you gotta go, boy. It's in your blood. You belong out there." He gestured to the vast forest beyond the clearing. Koda nudged him gently, a gesture of affection and gratitude. Harlan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small leather pouch. Inside was a small, intricately carved bone whistle. He had made it himself, hoping that one day it might help Koda if he ever needed it. He tied the pouch around the wolf's neck, careful not to disturb him. "You keep this with you, okay? If you ever need me, just blow on it. I'll come running." Koda sniffed the pouch curiously, then looked back at Harlan. The wolf seemed to understand the significance of the gift. He licked Harlan's hand once, then turned and trotted towards the trees. Harlan watched him go, a lump in his throat. He knew that this was the right thing, but it didn't make it any easier. As Koda disappeared into the forest, Harlan felt a profound sense of loss. The cabin seemed emptier without the wolf's presence. He spent the next few days in a daze, going through the motions of his daily routine, but feeling disconnected from it all. He missed Koda's companionship, the quiet understanding they had shared. But Koda was not gone forever. He roamed the forest, rediscovering the freedom he had lost. The other wolves accepted him back into the pack, and he took his place as a leader once more. The bond he had formed with Harlan remained, a silent connection that neither of them could deny. Months passed, and the seasons changed. The forest transformed from the stark white of winter to the vibrant greens and blues of spring. Koda thrived in his natural habitat, leading his pack with strength and wisdom. But he never forgot Harlan. The whistle hung around his neck, a constant reminder of the man who had saved his life. One day, as Koda was hunting with his pack, he heard a sound that made his heart race. It was the faint echo of the whistle. He stopped in his tracks, listening intently. The sound was distant, but it was unmistakable. Koda turned and raced through the forest, his pack following closely behind. Harlan stood at the edge of the clearing, the whistle in his hand. He had debated whether to use it, not wanting to disturb Koda's new life. But he had felt a desperate need to see the wolf again, to know that he was okay. As he waited, he heard the sound of paws on the ground, and then Koda appeared, bounding towards him with joy. The wolf leaped into Harlan's arms, knocking him to the ground. Harlan laughed, a sound of pure happiness, as he hugged Koda tightly. With Koda by his side, Harlan felt a renewed sense of purpose. He began to spend more time in the forest, learning about the wildlife and the delicate balance of the ecosystem. He realized that he had a responsibility to protect the land that he loved, and he started to advocate for conservation efforts in the area. Koda became a symbol of the wild, a reminder of the beauty and fragility of nature. Harlan worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the importance of preserving the forest and its inhabitants. He organized community events, gave talks at local schools, and even started a small nonprofit organization dedicated to wildlife conservation. But not everyone shared Harlan's vision. A group of developers had set their sights on the forest, seeing it as a prime location for a new resort. They had the backing of powerful investors, and they were determined to see their project through. Harlan knew that if they succeeded, it would mean the destruction of the very land he was trying to protect. He rallied the community, organizing protests and speaking out against the development. But the developers were relentless, and they had the law on their side. Harlan felt the weight of the battle bearing down on him, but he refused to give up. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a miracle happened. A video of Koda taken by a local wildlife photographer, went viral. The video showed the wolf in all his majestic glory, running through the forest with his pack. It captured the hearts of people around the world, and it sparked a global conversation about the importance of preserving wildlife habitats. The video put pressure on the developers, and they were forced to reconsider their plans. The community rallied behind Harlan, and the local government was forced to take action. The forest was designated as a protected area, ensuring that it would remain untouched by development. Harlan felt a wave of relief and gratitude. He knew that this was just the beginning, but it was a significant victory. The viral video of Koda had a ripple effect, inspiring people worldwide to take action. Wildlife conservation became a hot topic, and organizations dedicated to protecting endangered species received an influx of support. Harlan was invited to speak at international conferences, where he shared his story and advocated for stronger conservation efforts. He met with leaders and activists from around the globe, learning about the challenges and successes of different conservation initiatives. Harlan realized that the fight to protect the environment was a global one, and he was determined to do his part. He collaborated with international organizations, helping to fund and support projects that aimed to preserve biodiversity. Despite his newfound fame and responsibilities, Harlan never lost sight of his connection to Koda and the forest. He continued to visit the wolf, spending time with him and his pack. Koda had become a symbol of hope and resilience, and his story inspired people to reconnect with nature. Harlan noticed that Koda's pack had grown, and he was proud to see the wolf thriving in his natural habitat. He knew that Koda's journey was a testament to the power of compassion and the importance of preserving the wild. Harlan felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had played a part in protecting the land that he and Koda both loved. As the years passed, Harlan's work in conservation continued to grow. He established a foundation in Koda's name, dedicated to protecting wildlife and their habitats. The foundation funded research, supported local conservation efforts, and educated communities about the importance of living in harmony with nature. Harlan's legacy lived on through the foundation, and his story became a source of inspiration for future generations. People from all walks of life were drawn to his message, and he became a respected figure in the world of conservation. Harlan never forgot his humble beginnings, and he remained committed to the cause that had changed his life. But the fight was far from over. A new threat emerged, this time in the form of climate change. The effects of global warming were becoming increasingly apparent, and the forest was not immune. Unpredictable weather patterns, rising temperatures, and melting ice were taking a toll on the ecosystem. Harlan knew that he had to adapt his approach to address this new challenge. He worked with scientists and researchers to develop strategies for mitigating the impact of climate change on the forest. He advocated for renewable energy and sustainable practices, knowing that the fate of the forest was intertwined with the health of the planet. Harlan realized that the key to combating climate change lay in the community. He organized workshops and seminars, educating people about the importance of reducing their carbon footprint and living sustainably. He encouraged local businesses to adopt green practices, and he worked with schools to integrate environmental education into their curriculum. The community responded positively, and Harlan was heartened by the changes he saw. People began to take action in their own lives, making choices that benefited the environment. Harlan knew that this was just the beginning, but he was hopeful for the future. In the midst of these efforts, a scientific breakthrough offered a glimmer of hope. Researchers developed a new technology that could capture and store carbon dioxide more efficiently than ever before. Harlan saw the potential in this technology and worked to bring it to the forest. He partnered with scientists and engineers to implement the technology, creating a pilot project that aimed to reduce the carbon footprint of the area. The project was a success, and it attracted attention from around the world. Harlan was proud of the progress they had made, but he knew that there was still much work to be done. The success of the pilot project led to international collaboration. Governments, organizations, and researchers from around the world came together to share knowledge and resources. Harlan was at the forefront of this effort, using his platform to advocate for global cooperation in the fight against climate change. He traveled to different countries, meeting with leaders and scientists to discuss strategies for protecting the environment. Harlan believed that the only way to tackle the issue of climate change was through collaboration and unity. He was determined to build bridges and foster partnerships that would lead to meaningful change. As Harlan's work took him around the world, he had to make personal sacrifices. He spent less time in the forest, and his visits with Koda became less frequent. But he knew that his work was important, and he was driven by a sense of purpose. He missed the quiet moments with the wolf, but he took comfort in the knowledge that he was making a difference. Harlan often thought about the path that had led him to this point. He had started as a hunter, but his encounter with Koda had changed everything. He had found a new path, one that was dedicated to preserving the beauty of the natural world. The emotional toll of Harlan's work was significant. He faced setbacks and challenges, and there were times when the weight of the world seemed to rest on his shoulders. The fight against climate change was a daunting task, and the enormity of the problem often felt overwhelming. Harlan found himself grappling with feelings of doubt and frustration, wondering if his efforts were enough. He missed the simplicity of his life before, when his days were filled with the quiet companionship of Koda and the tranquility of the forest. The constant travel, the endless meetings, and the pressure to make a difference weighed heavily on him. Harlan struggled with the isolation that came with his role as an advocate, feeling disconnected from the very land he was trying to protect. In moments of despair, he would think of Koda and the strength the wolf had shown in the face of adversity. Koda had taught him the importance of resilience, and Harlan clung to that lesson. He reminded himself that change was a slow process, and that every small victory was a step in the right direction. Despite the challenges, Harlan was not alone in his fight. He had built a strong support system of like-minded individuals who shared his passion for conservation. His team at the foundation was dedicated and hard-working, and they provided him with the encouragement and support he needed to keep going. Harlan also found solace in the community that had rallied behind him. The people who had once been skeptical of his ideas were now his allies, and they worked together to implement sustainable practices and protect the environment. Harlan's relationships with the local indigenous communities were particularly important, as they shared a deep connection to the land and a wealth of traditional knowledge. He also maintained his connection to Koda, visiting the wolf whenever he could. These visits were a source of strength for Harlan, reminding him of the beauty and resilience of the natural world. Koda's presence was a constant reminder of the reason he had embarked on this journey, and it gave him the courage to continue. Through the challenges he faced, Harlan experienced significant personal growth. He learned to be patient and persistent, understanding that change takes time. He developed a deeper understanding of the complexities of environmental issues, and he became more adept at navigating the political and social landscapes that surrounded them. Harlan also learned the importance of self-care. He realized that in order to be effective in his work, he needed to take care of his own mental and physical health. He made time for activities that brought him joy, such as hiking and spending time with friends. He also sought the guidance of a therapist who helped him process the emotional challenges he faced. Harlan's efforts had a ripple effect, inspiring others to take action in their own lives. People who had never considered the impact of their choices on the environment began to make changes, motivated by Harlan's story and the example he set. The community became a model for sustainable living, and other towns and cities looked to them for guidance. The foundation that Harlan had established continued to grow, expanding its reach and impact. It funded research, supported conservation projects, and educated people about the importance of protecting the environment. Harlan's vision had become a reality, and his legacy was one of hope and resilience. As Harlan reflected on his journey, he realized that it was not just about saving the forest or protecting wildlife. It was about creating a new way of living, one that was in harmony with nature. He had come to understand that the health of the planet was inextricably linked to the well-being of all its inhabitants, and he was committed to fighting for a sustainable future. Harlan decided to take a step back from the day-to-day operations of the foundation, passing the torch to a new generation of leaders. He remained involved, but he also made time for other pursuits. He wrote a book about his experiences, sharing his story and the lessons he had learned. He also started a podcast where he interviewed other activists and experts in the field of conservation. Koda remained a constant presence in Harlan's life, a symbol of the wild and the beauty of the natural world. The wolf had taught him the importance of living in the moment, of cherishing the connections we have with the world around us. Harlan knew that the fight for the environment was far from over, but he was filled with hope for the future. In the end, Harlan's journey was one of transformation. He had started as a hunter, but he had become a guardian of the wild. He had learned to see the world through a different lens, and he had dedicated his life to protecting the planet. His story was a testament to the power of compassion, the strength of the human spirit, and the enduring bond between man and nature.